Good evening. Make yourself comfortable. Let your shoulders gently loosen and your breath become deeper and calmer. Tonight we travel to a land of ages, along the Nile, through quiet gardens, beneath palm shadows and a starry sky shimmering over the pyramids. We will speak slowly, like walking on sand, about the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, their calm radiance and their quiet obsession with eternity. Imagine the blue ribbon of the Nile, flooding each year and leaving black, fertile soil. With that rhythm, a civilization lasting millennia is born. Egypt knew rulers called pharaohs, monarchs of divine glow, guardians of the order they called maat, balance, justice, harmony. They left their messages in stone, temples, obelisks, tombs, and behind the splendor, always the thought of what comes after, the journey through night and the rebirth with the sun. Tonight we will meet a few faces from that long dream. Ramesses II, the builder and long-reigning ruler. Akhenaten, the pharaoh who changed the gods. Tutankhamun, the boy king. And Cleopatra, the last to wear Egypt's crown. Then we'll step quietly into their tombs, into the stillness of marble and linen wrappings, into the gentle rituals of eternity. Breathe slowly. We begin. Dawn over the delta. In a light haze rises a city called Ramesses, the capital of a mighty king. Gardens, pools, colonnades, and tall statues engraved with one name only: Ramesses. Ramesses II ruled for a very long time. He was a builder who liked stone to speak with his voice. Temples at Abu Simbel, halls at Karnak, inscriptions where the king gives thanks to the gods and reminds passers-by that order is restored, the land nourished, the borders secure. If you close your eyes, you can hear a copper chisel tapping limestone and the footsteps of workers changing shifts to the Nile's rhythm. Ramesses did not build only structures, he built memory. In his time, ceremony and everyday life meet. Morning libations in the temple, the scent of incense, then councils about fields, granaries of grain, roadside stations for caravans. Legend remembers the campaign at Kadesh, the talks with the Hittites, and that old feeling that peace after struggle must be recorded in stone. But when evening falls and footsteps fade in the palace, Ramesses is left alone with the quiet thought that followed all pharaohs: how to secure the soul's passage along the river of night. We can imagine him overseeing work on his memorial temple, checking ornaments and texts that will guide him after life. In Egypt, every act has an echo: bread laid before a deity, water poured as an offering, a word spoken precisely, without haste. And so, Ramesses remains like a scene from afar, a king standing calmly before his colossi, while centuries shift above him. Once, in the long flow of history, a pharaoh looked at the sun and wished to be closer to it. His name was Akhenaten. He left the old temples and founded a new capital on a plain where the horizon breathes wide. He called it Akhet-Aten, horizon of the Aten, the solar disk. In this king's temples, roofs were lower, courtyards open, light entering freely. Figures on reliefs grew softer, more domestic. The king, Queen Nefertiti, and their daughters beneath the sun's rays. It was a change both quiet and bold, like altering the melody of an old song. Some followed with curiosity, Others feared maat, the eternal balance, might be disturbed. Akhenaten's story ends gently, almost soundlessly. After his death, things drift back to the old order. The city disperses, temples are left behind. Yet something warm remains in that episode, a reminder that even the greatest traditions sometimes take a different breath, then calmly continue on their way. After Akhenaten, a young pharaoh takes the throne, Tutankhamun. The boy king is delicate, but around him stand teachers, priests, physicians, craftsmen. Little by little, the old temples are restored. Ceremonies familiar to the people return. His life is short. Imagine him walking with a cane, listening to reports about grain tributes and canal repairs, already tired, yet serene. Death finds him young, quietly. Yet his story then finds a voice that carries through centuries. A small hidden tomb remains almost untouched. Gold, blue glass, ebony, and a mask that looks with a gentle, timeless gaze. Every object in that tomb is a whisper, a chair to sit, a chariot to depart, vessels to refresh the soul. As if an entire little home were moved into stillness, so the boy king would not be alone. Today we know that modern examinations brought him back into the light of knowledge. Traces of illness, perhaps an unsteady step, and the care with which he was equipped for the journey. There is no noise there, only the slow, tender voice of old Egypt caring for its kings as for children. In the last chapters of Egypt's song stands the name Cleopatra. She does not rule as in the age of pyramids. The world is already different, woven of Greek and Egyptian threads. Cleopatra is a ruler of learning and language, of political skill and inherited traditions. She knows crowns are sometimes guarded by words, sometimes by silence. She knows love and politics often spoke with the same voice in ancient halls. Her end is known, dramatic, yet told softly in our tale tonight. With her, an epoch slowly closes its book, but the paper smells of incense long after the words have fallen quiet. Now slow even more, and enter a typical pharaoh's day. Dawn. In a small palace chapel, a priest lights incense. Water from the Nile, consecrated by words, gently flows over the king's hands. Daily rituals are not spectacle. They are the universe's tidiness translated into gesture. The king offers bread and beer, fruit and perfumes. In return, he asks only one thing, that order endure, that the sun rise, the Nile swell, the fields yield. Later, news arrives, canals to be cleared, granaries to be filled, tolls for caravans. The king asks, listens, judges. His duty is to weigh, not to shout. Afternoon brings respite, the harp's music, a game of senate, an ancient pastime that in the mind becomes a map for the journey beyond. In the evening garden, the scent of lotus is heavy and gentle at once, and the king knows all this is preparation, a soft passage between day and night, between the world's seen and the world's sense. Egypt speaks carefully about death. It does not shout or frighten. Where others see an end, Egypt builds a bridge. When a king dies, a quiet, very orderly work begins. The body is cleansed and dried, protected and wrapped. All is accompanied by words with weight and warmth. Tombs are not dungeons. They are dwellings of the soul. On the walls are maps, how to pass the gates, how to answer the questions, how to recognize your heart when it is placed upon the scale of justice. At first, pyramids were a sign, a beacon in the sand. Later, tombs hid in valleys and rock, far from sight and noise. Inside, furniture, clothing, vessels, tools, everything needed for the soul to continue, unhurried, its familiar day. Sometimes, in the earliest times, others were buried beside the king, traces of customs later replaced by symbols, small Shakti figures that, it was believed, would awaken and help with tasks for the one whose hands could tire no more. We may pause for a moment before a sarcophagus. On its lid, a calm face, gentle eyes. Around it, golden texts that are more than glitter, a map and a song. All says, "Do not be afraid. There is order here too." Behind ceremonies, ordinary worries live. The king has a family, a wife, children, relatives, tutors, advisors. Sometimes love and politics intertwine. Sometimes silence speaks more than words. In some eras, marriages within the royal house were a way to preserve legacy and legitimacy. We do not need to judge any of this at night. Simply notice how power often sought a circle, a refuge in the familiar. There were tensions, sometimes plots, for a crown is a very attractive light. But in our bedtime tale, let us stay with wider scenes, children's laughter in a garden, a calm conversation in the shade, a quiet reading of a papyrus, noting the barley yield. At the end of each of these stories stands a sense of endurance. Stone endures, and so does the word, the one spoken slowly in prayer or judgment, and the one engraved with signs of bird, water, and sun. The pharaohs wanted to be remembered, and they are. We sometimes think they achieved it with gold. Perhaps they achieved it with silence. For the desert's silence is the place where memory echoes the longest. Today, when science gently unwinds their remains, when we read genes, wounds, and healings, we do not seek sensation, but understanding. And we see, beneath the crown there was always a face, behind the title, a person. Let us return once more to them all, to Ramesses, whose statues melt in the sunset, to Akhenaten, who opened temples to light, to Tutankhamun, whose small home in the tomb's stillness became a great story, and to Cleopatra, the last note of an old chord. All walked the same sand, drank the same water, watched the same sun, as we do, and all, in their own way, sought a gentle passage from day to night, from noise to calm. As you lie there, feel your breath grow quieter and deeper. Imagine the Nile flowing without haste. With each exhale, let words settle like leaves on the water's surface. If sleep slowly takes you, let it. The pharaohs learned patience long ago, that everything has its hour, that life and sleep alternate like day and night over the sands. Thank you for traveling through time tonight. May your dreams be peaceful, like a temple's cool shadow at noon. Good night.